Hi everyone. We're back to some more examples of systems of linear inequalities. Over here to the left, you'll see the graph of two systems of linear inequalities. We're going to have to take the graphs and disassemble them and write the system of linear inequalities. So we have our red line and we have our purple line. So that's how we'll start this off. So my first linear inequality I'm going to do in red. In order for us to do this, we're going to need to identify our slope and our y-intercept. Okay, so for our red line, we need to identify both of these. Okay, so I'm going to get my pointer and we're going to look here. The line, or where the line crosses my y-axis, is my y-intercept, or my b value. So my b value is right here. That is at 1, 2, 3, 4, positive 4. So b is positive 4 for my red line. Let me open this a little bit. Okay. Now, the red line has a negative slope. So I know my slope is going to be negative. So I know that I'm going to be going down first and then to the right. So for my y-intercept, or my b, I have to go down 1, 2, and to the right 1, 2, 3. So my slope is negative 2 over 3. Okay, so now that we have our slope and our y-intercept, we could write the equation to our line, or inequality, I'm sorry. So you're putting this into y equals mx plus b form. In this case, we are not using an equal sign because it's an inequality. And I know it's an inequality because I have shading here. Okay, so you're going to look at this line and only this line. And the shading, if you were to put your right hand over top of this line, the shading is above it. So this is a greater than shading. Okay, this is only partial because this is where both of their shading would be intersecting. Okay, so this is a greater than because it's above the line, or equal to because this is a solid line. So instead of writing an equal sign here, you're going to insert your greater than or equal to symbol. And all you have to do now is fill in the blanks. Normally your equation is y equals mx plus b. So we have y, and instead of equals, we have greater than or equal to. M, negative 2 over 3. X, plus b. Our b value is 4. So that's our first linear inequality. Then we're going to go to our purple line. We do the same thing. I clicked the purple. I don't know why it didn't turn purple. We need to find our slope. Our slope is going to be positive because it goes up here. All right, it's climbing. And our y-intercept. So our y-intercept is right here at 0, 0. So b equals 0. I just said that our slope is positive. So you start at your y-intercept, and then you go up 1, 2, and to the right 1, 2, 3. So your slope is positive 2 over 3. All right. Now, if you're looking at your purple line, the shading is underneath it. Okay. So if I'm shading underneath, that's a less than. And if it's a solid line, it's or equal to. So when I'm filling out my y equals mx plus b, I'm putting a less than or equal to symbol. My m is 3 over 2x, And I could add a plus 0. I don't need that though, because adding 0 to something doesn't change it. That's our additive identity. Adding 0 keeps it the same. So I could keep it like that. So my system of inequalities here my answer to this is y is greater than or equal to negative 2 over 3x plus 4, and y is less than or equal to positive 2 over 3x. And there you have it. That's your system of inequalities that goes with this graph. Let's see the next example. I'm going to zoom in because we're going to need to see this a little bit better here. All right, we're asked which graph is represented by this. So in order for us to figure out what graph is being represented, or which graph represents this system of inequalities, we have to figure out which of these is our blue line and which one of these is our red line. So over here, and ooh, sorry. Try to put this all in here. Okay, so for our first line, our y-intercept is 3, and our second line, our y-intercept is negative 4. The blue and the red lines are exactly the same for all 4 graphs. The shading is the only thing that's different. So we're going to figure out which is our blue and which is our red line very easily just by looking at our y-intercepts. So for our first inequality, it should be crossing our y-axis at positive 3. So here's my y-axis, and here's positive 3. For each and every single one of these graphs, it is crossing at 3. The blue line is crossing at 3. So I know that my first inequality, ooh, let's make that a little smaller. And this, why is that not? This first one, that's our blue line, okay? Which means that that second line is our red line. All right. Now, the next task is very easy. They both have a line underneath it, which is why both lines are solid. They're not trying to trick you there at all. So for your blue line, it's a less than or equal to sign. So since it's less than, for our blue line, whoa, oh, because I have it zoomed in. We should be graphing under, or shading under, I'm sorry. So blue line, you're shading under, and your red inequality is greater than or equal to, so greater than or equal to, you shade over. So let's look at the first. So here's our blue line. If you were to put your right hand over top of it, this shading would be above your blue, the hand that's over your blue line. So our answer is not going to be W. This is not your solution. Sorry about that. For the next, for this X, here's your blue line. If you were to put your right hand over it, you're shading above it. This is shading above your blue line. Again, you're looking for it to be shading under it, and that's not the case here. So this cannot be your answer. All right. Your next. For this one, here's your blue line. If you were to put your right hand over this, the shading is under it. So that checks that box right there. And here's your red line. If you were to put your left hand over this red line, the shading is underneath it. but we want it to be over it. So this is not the graph. And then finally, this better be it, and I'll show you why. So if you put your hand over your blue line, it's shading under it, which is what we want it. And if you put your left hand over your red line, it's shaded above it, or over it, which is exactly what you want it. So the solution is Z. So that's your answer right there. Like how that fit in there. Let's check another one out. Here's another one very similar to it. This one's trying to trick us. So right off the bat, we get to answer, or we get to cross off. So this first inequality does not have a line under it, and the second one does. That means one of these lines is going to be dashed, and the other one is going to be solid. So this one has one solid line and one dashed. This has two solid lines. Right off the bat, that cannot be a part of our solution. All right. Same with this one. This next one, again, both of our lines are solid. One has to be solid, while the other one is dashed. Not an answer, not a solution. But this last one, it does. So it appears that the blue line is our dashed line, which makes our life easier. We don't have to consider our y-intercepts. So the dashed line is blue, therefore the top is our blue, and the second inequality is our red. Alrighty. Now, it's greater than in the first one, so greater than, we're shading it up or above or over. Well, that's blue, and that's not the color blue. So over your hand, or on top of your head, or above your hand. And the second one is less than or equal to, so this is under. Let's have a look. This red one, the shading is under it, so that works. The blue line, if you were to put your right hand over it, the shading is over it. So W is our answer there. Let's see why the last choice wouldn't work. The last choice does not work because if you were to put your right hand over your red line, it's supposed to be shading under it. If you have your right hand over the top here, this shading is over top of your right hand. So that's why you cannot have this graph Z as a solution. So W is the only graph here that works. Hope these examples helped. If you were to come over to this slide, we're going to do this slide in the next video, and these example problems. Alrighty, see you in the next one.